Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, if depending on where you're joining from. I want to welcome everyone to this conference summit that we're having, organized by MEED. The topic that we will be covering is development of digital infrastructure and digital in general across the MENA region. Firstly, let me thank MEED for creating this opportunity for us to talk about this very strategic and important topic. It's a timely discussion. Everyone has this on their mind. Just a bit about myself first. I drive EY's digital government agenda across the Middle East and North Africa, and I have the pleasure of moderating this session today. As a quick background, I started my career in the UK government, and after working under three different prime ministers, Margaret Thatcher, John Major, and Tony Blair, moved up to the private sector, and for the last 7+ years have been working for EY MENA, based in Dubai, but covering the Middle East MENA region. I'm driven by a purpose of making a difference in people's lives, and in particular, I'm trying to bring purpose to digital in government. I like to think myself as a thought leader in citizen centricity and digital government. I speak about reimagining government for the digital era, and my views on this futuristic government model, and what I think it could be like to be operating as a government in this particular time, and generally the whole digital topic around a nation and what does it mean. Let me welcome all of you who have joined us today. Thank you for being with us and participating with this important panel discussion. And secondly, I want to give a big welcome to Dr. Salim, who's joined us, and also we'll be most likely joining with Dr. Jassim as well, just having some technical difficulties right now. And I want to give you a big thank you, Dr. Salim, for taking time out of your business schedule to be with us here today. And
it's my pleasure, Brother Mohammad.
Thank you. So let me just set the scene of how we want to run this session so everyone is aware of it. So we'll do a very quick introduction. I'll give the mic to Dr. Salim in a second for him to introduce himself. And then we'll do a very general first question, talk about the topic of digital. And we want this to be more like a conversation, as if we are sitting around a table having a cup of coffee and chatting. And most importantly, we want to give you guys who are listening in today and participating to ask questions, and we will try our best to pick up those questions and have a discussion. And we hope that this will be beneficial for all of us. We will learn something from it and take away something from it. And in the end, we will wrap up, and I'll give the opportunity to Dr. Salim, and hopefully by then Dr. Jassim would have joined us to give their closing remarks, and we will bring the session to an end. So, Dr. Salim, if I can hand over the mic to you, brother, for your quick introduction, please.
Thank you, Brother Mohammed, for this brief introduction. And mashallah, and a good moderator for this one. My name is, of course, Salim Al-Shuaili. I worked first. I finished from Oman, Sultan Qaboos University, and then I worked for around 8 years. I was there as an academician and also computer programmer. And I left to work in the Information Technology Authority, which lead the e-government and digital transformation program in the country. Since that time, for around now 15 to 16 years working with them, I proceeded my study, Master in Technology Management and PhD in ICT. So in technology management, of course, e-government for digital transformation projects. While I'm working there, I run and managing lots of the digital transformation projects in the country. Currently working in the Center for Space, Artificial Intelligence and Advanced Technology, which belongs to the same organization. So because you already started about I will take this opportunity to talk about the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure for this. As I am working in digital transformation, of course, when we talk about digital transformation, it's not just it's a word transforming, I can say, services from counter services to be applied through either a mobile or laptops or a kiosk, or by any other digital assets. But people, they don't aware what is the infrastructure is required for this digital transformation. Always the word digital transformation, it can give a meaning or insight about A to Z, what's required for all these one processes. So it must, from our, I can see from country perspective, they relied this one before they started to transforming the surfaces. They transformed the infrastructure. They built a huge data center, national data center for the whole entities here in the countries. Plus, they are trying to link all the entities in one government network, so it can be easily communicate to each other. Like instead of communicate to different servers, need that it has different IP address. This is have a firewall. This is what is required different access. No, they can all talk in the same environment. One ecosystem I can see for whole for the digital ecosystem I can see for digital systems. And then also, so we have digital networks and we have a national data center. Then it was easy for them. Also they built that the government clouds. The government clouds is called cloud for the whole databases of all the governments. So it can maintain at the same time. They store all in the national data centers. As you know, that the benefits of the national data center 24/7 with the full secure, is well equipped with the latest technologies, and then to start either or to be ready for the coming wave of any digital revolution.
So, Dr. Salim, if I was to, think about digital transformation, we hear the word quite regularly in many talks, panel discussions. There's keynotes given. There's a lot of writing about it. Pretty much anywhere, anything we touch to today is talking about digital transformation in some shape or form. And I'm not talking just from a government perspective, but in general, at a national level, this is a subject at top of the agenda. In this particular region, MENA region, and if you want to maybe even focus into the GCC in particular, why, in your opinion, you think it's important for us to embrace this transformation? Why not, let it be, let's not invest too much time, effort, money into this. Why is it so important for us to take on this transformation?
Well, that's good. Really, it's a good question, and it touched the heart sense of our lives now. If I am taking one example, let us take this example. If we are reading in the Google or any research paper, what is the benefit of digital transformation? We will list it, and I will reflect it in one example. Before when students graduate from their diploma, they have to apply for different academic institutions to enroll themselves either for degree, BS degrees, or for high diploma. So what we used to do, they used to do that. They have to go first. They have to pick a car. They are crossing more than 200 kilometers. More than, I said by kilometers, I can say, to apply in that physically in that institution. And they have to wait for that institution to come out with the result. So if they are accepted, then it will work. If they are not accepted, they have to go back to that institution and pick their paper and go again to a different institution to apply for this one. Now, what's the difference between that time and this time? Now, from their home, without any without doing and accessing anything, just access the portal and just choose where they want to be enrolled and give multiple choices. This is the first, this is the second, this is the third. At the end, no need to follow, no need to go to any physically, no need to go to any institution, no need to call, no need to anything. They will receive like an email or SMS that you are accepted in this program in this academic institution. So see, it's saving the time, saving the cost, saving even the resources, even saving the crowd. You know what is the impact? People, they are making crowded in the road, traffic crowded. They are also making even the institutions so crowded with the students. They are coming to apply. They have maybe most of the time they will come with some missing papers, so they have to go back and bring that paper again. But now all the documents are digitally uploaded in the system, and the system is either integrated and they are interact and call what is required from the data digitally and in the backend. So what's important? Yes, it's important to save the people life, to make to deliver and to deliver a high quality of service to people.
Yeah, and I think. Sorry, go ahead, carry on, please.
Yeah. Now, what we are coming before we have, for example, if we are taking step by step, we have counter services. People they are going that what I said. Then it became an e-service. E-service, they have to come. Of course, about the services, we have different services. They are informative services only. They have transactional services. They have e-payment and integrated services. All these services is available online. And then it came with the mobile. So by your mobile, you can apply your service. Okay, imagine one thing, that tomorrow you are traveling somewhere in the world, and any registration it open while you are abroad. Do you have to cross again and cancel your trip and come back to the country and go and apply for these things? No. Now you can apply from any part of the world for any service. Just log in by username and password and apply for this one. With the new technologies, then it came more and more. So the life it came more easier. So even we hear about emerging technologies or advanced technologies, the 4IR revolution technologies, that it can save us like with a single click, not by a single click, by a sensors. Yeah. They are feeling, the technology is feeling on us. Even now there are a smart spoon. It count and weight how much food you need, and the duration between the first one and the second one. You know. So this one why.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, but I always like to think about this question, because if we don't clearly understand the why, what is the imperative or the reason or the purpose, what's the benefits we will derive from this, then our transformations could be much more linked to a technology, what I call a technology first led approach versus a purpose first led approach. And you very rightly put it that it's become virtually impossible for us to operate, whether we are a private citizen in our capacity as an individual citizen, or as a business or a government employee or a government sector, without the use of technology. And one of the statistics I was looking at the other day, that during COVID alone, we have seen a jump in online usage of services and information, etc., from around 4 billion to 4.9 billion connected people. So that's a big jump. But there is still approximately 37% of the population unconnected. There is a long journey for us to go through. Coming specifically when it looks at it from a lens of MENA, must be many good examples of how we have embraced digital technologies to enhance the country's competitiveness. So one of the other things I believe is important, that why we should embrace digital transformation, is that the world is moving in that direction, and if we do not stay at pace with them, then we become less competitive as nations. So do you have any experiences, examples that you can share where you feel a national level strategy has been put in place to really embrace digital for competitiveness?
Yeah, that's one first when you raise one comment that before we are talking about the current technologies or the governance of these technologies or the strategy of these technologies, yes, to let people understand what does it mean digital transformation, how they feel the difference, and what does it mean. Is it really a technical? Because even people in our research, when we said about e-government, is it a technical project or it's a business project? It's related to technical team or to the business team or to business area. The whole of our life. Of course, definitely. One of the challenges that are facing, embracing, or harnessing any of these technologies is the governance, rules, regulations of these technologies, and the government has realized this one. For example, here in Oman, when the drones started, the drone was breaching the privacy of the people. Flying over your home and then maybe capturing some of the photos. Even at that time, they banned for entering to the countries. They catch everything and maybe they are putting in the code. But now they regulate this one. So when I want to, all these things, no need to list all these things. Again, for the other technologies, for the data itself. From this purpose, and from this side, yes. One example, I think it's enough for people to realize. When I said about the people, it's either citizen or the decision makers. Let us say the consumers or the decision makers. From one example, to realize what is the importance of digital transformation. And last, I had a session 2 weeks back about big data and how it's affecting our life. And instead of talking technically, I talked about one thing, about the type of leadership is required, or the style of leadership is required to lead the current era, the current technical era. So there's one style is called digital leadership. We had let us, maybe I am coming away. We have how many industrial revolutions? We have 4 industrial revolutions. The first, second, third, and we are the current for the fourth industrial revolution. Can we bring a leader with the same mentality of the first industrial revolution to lead the current industrial revolution if he is not changing his mind? Definitely not. That's why they need to, when taking one example, it will prove and convince the decision maker, yes, it's required. Okay, not even coming, take this technology, okay, embrace it or utilize it or adopt it in our country. No, there is required a lot of things. Governance for these technologies, regulation for these technologies, as I said, regulation, digitize this one to be used for public and for the private sector. So yeah, this one, I can reflect now, for example, from our countries, and not even our countries. We see that we read even in the neighbors countries or in different countries. Yeah, before they have to regulate this one.
No, I like how you have framed that, and I often I'm being asked to explain the difference between an IT strategy and a digital strategy, and it's not an easy one to explain because there are so many definitions and so many views about this. But the one which I found the probably the closest to how I feel about this is something that Gartner put out, and they made it quite simple. They talked in this way that an IT strategy is a technical answer to a business question. It's about how will IT help the business or the organization win or be successful. Whereas how they look at digital strategy is a business answer to a digital question. And it's very aligned to what you're saying. Is kind of, how do we, or how should we, and our businesses, our organizations, our governments, our countries evolve to survive and thrive in this increasingly digital world? So it becomes much more of a business question first, or a operating model, business model question first, before you get into the technology side of it. And that's I think a very important aspect for people to be aware of, that if we are going to just label our digital strategy on something which was a IT strategy of our past, then we haven't really created a digital strategy. So it's a good way to reflect on what do we have as a strategy. And I think also, if I look at the simplification of life through what you mentioned, how the technology is being leveraged to make processes which were there before quite cumbersome, quite difficult, requiring us to be present physically, to now you can do that in a very simple way online without having to travel too many distances, etc. But also, how does that have the knock-on effect and potentially improving and contributing to the improvement of our environment. And as we know today, sustainability is becoming a key agenda for all of governments around the world, and digital has a great role to play in helping us to be sustainable. But let me ask, let's talk about something which I feel is quite important to explore, and that is the actual infrastructure side of things, the building blocks. Do you feel, I travel in different parts of the world, I get experiences with different countries, and in the MENA region, as I travel, I also experience different levels of maturity when it comes to the infrastructure, that building blocks, which I call the kind of roads of digital economy or digital governance in place. Do you feel that we have done enough in the MENA region to build those building blocks? As you were saying earlier on, there's a whole infrastructure layer that needs to be in place, on top of which you can do all these great things. Or do you feel there's a gap and we need to really bring it higher up on the agenda?
And briefly, no. So I can say no, but they are working. We are trying hard. Yeah. So before you mentioned also, I am coming to this one. You know that if we are taking the COVID-19, it's globally, COVID-19 is a good lesson for the whole people, for the whole community to realize what is the importance of embracing or harnessing the technologies. For me, I was working from home. So if there is no technology, how can I work from home? So everything will be shut down. The government will close their doors. So if there's closed, that means there is no income. But the technology is, thanks, alhamdulillah, thanks to Allah and then to technologies, because it was available at that time. In the hospitals, biosensors. So how we can know this, all these things that what was the empowering these things to? It's only the technologies. So people, they are not realizing what does it mean, the technologies. Yeah, technology is not just come and open the door by face recognition, opening the door. No, what is the backend? What is the investment in the infrastructure itself? What is required and costly for this one? Oman has built a strategy for digital transformation, and it's already approved, and we are working in it here in Oman. Now, all the world is building a strategy that is called economical strategy based on digital economic strategy, and Oman is one of them. Also, they approved this strategy. So, moving by that strategy, digital strategy, and economical based on digital strategy, yes, it will answer your question, and I can yes, but not now in the close time, but in the long time. Also, last time our leader, His Majesty Sultan Haytham, has steering the cabinets that to establish a center for helping decision making, for taking decision making. So that based on what? Of course, based on data. So this data from where is collecting from sensors? Data is collecting from the database. So what is collecting this one? It's only the technology.
Correct.
So if that's mean one of the challenges in the world that hinder taking is in the top leadership support. So now we are getting the top leadership support. So once we are getting this one, and he gives his steer that to establish that one, that means establish the whole infrastructure and technologies. If it is come in the right way. If tomorrow decided, or lots of states here, they are coming to ask for establishing or building or constructing a road, main road, dual roads. So based on what? Just speak on my timber, I know Brother Mohammad or I know X and Y, okay, go to him and construct that road to that area. No. Based on that, there is a sensor. They have to fix a sensor on that road, see what is the peak time for that road, at what time, at what date, what type of trucks and vehicles is moving to that road. Based on that data, automatically by enhancing or by pressing the artificial intelligence, then it will give the right decision for the decision makers. So
I think this is sorry, Karen, please.
No. So what I am saying, all things is interconnected together. Either the technology itself or what we are expecting in the future. Now, what is the fuel? What the current fuel? The fuel of the future is the data. Even it's called a big data warehouse is the data itself. So if we have collected this data, we know how to utilize. We know we can utilize any technology that we need in any lifestyle, any style in our or in an application in our life.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that this is the heart of our transformation, frankly, that I see data as the core around which we build our operating model of whether it's governance or our country operating or citizen operating. You rightly put it that data is going to be the key topic agenda, and how do we not just harness the data through collection, but how do we strategize and think about the data sets that we need to collect to run our countries better and our organizations better, our governments better, and taking a more proactive step. So that means AI, machine learning, is going to feature quite centrally in our lives. Already it is, but going forward is going to feature a lot more. And something that you've been playing with a lot and exploring, which is AI. It'll be quite interesting to hear your views on how you see AI changing our world around us.
Well, last time we have a project that in health sector that the early discovery of the breast cancer. And according to the medical doctor themselves or the health team, not based on our, as a technical, people consider the technical, they say it's almost 98% the occurrence of it. The output occurrence is around 98%. So even they said before, for doing this, they require at least minimum 2 to 4 medical doctors. Now, no need only one medical doctor. They can just following and tracking the system, how it's going, and just producing the output. So the artificial intelligence is playing a crucial and a huge role in our life system, in our life exactly. So wherever I can say always I define artificial intelligence is not a technology, is a technique. What I mean when I'm saying it's a technique, we have a technology. Okay, technology, it can play, it can work, it can whatever. Look, we have telematic car. Now we have telematic car. Telematic car, it's what's mean is autonomous cars driving driverless car, but without intelligence. Does it know where to go and where to come? It's because it will move in one direction. What's heading of it? It will not discover it. But embracing all the required technologies in it. For example, object detection, navigation system, IoTs, of course, navigation, putting the destination, know the roads, where to go, where to come, following right side and left side, keeping you in the same distance. Also, the radar systems, what is the distance allowed to speed there. So this is the artificial intelligence, how it's going. When we are talking, it's reflecting. It's reflecting a human mind. But what is the difference between human and artificial intelligence? Human, they have one important thing, what's called imagination. So by imagination, but anyone imagine. For example, today we have this. We are using this mouse by this type. Let people imagine. Give a new idea. What would be in the future? Someone will bring a new idea. Now today we have, for example, this headset. Now I'm using cable one, but we say that's wireless one. Before, what we are doing, because they are lifting the phone and putting them in their head like this one, and then people, they are tiring with lifting up their hands. So they are tying it to the thread or the rope there, and or the tape, and it start calling without pulling it. Another imagination or third can be, why this? We're not putting this headset for you. So this is what artificial intelligence will play our role.
So
to reflect our life.
It's quite interesting. What you say is pretty much every part of a country and if I zoom it down to an organization, whether it's governmental or private sector, will be exploring at some point in their journey the use of artificial intelligence, and it will become a central part of our world. Now, if I want to maybe break it down and try and put some context around, if we take a governmental organization, and the same thing can apply for any organization, and break it down into some parts, and we think of it from a perspective of channels. So typically, when I'm just take a step back, when I look at digital strategies, often we miss big components of that. But if I was to attempt, and I would like to have your view on this, to put some framework around what a digital strategy should cover, whether we are doing it at a national or organization level, but I'll take organization as an example. I see it as you have like a channel strategy. So, how are you going to use technology, but also how you're going to operate in the digital space? What kind of channels are you going to use for providing your services and giving access to your services? The second part is the services itself. So how is your service strategy going to evolve in this digital age we are living in? Are we going to still continue to provide some of the services physically, or part of them physically, part of them virtually in the digital space, etc.? And some are open to totally being made digital, and others are partially or maybe not at all, but the process for access could be. The third part then is your core part of your organization, processes that are going to produce those services or those products. How much can you think about that being leveraged through technology? So thinking of your core part of the organization, and then your enabling, or what I call organizational layer, which is how to run your organization. You typically have your HR, procurement, finance, IT, all those kind of different functions which help you run your organization. And then the last, I used to think about, and I've added another one, which will be good to get your view on. The one is about then the leadership part of it, the governance part of it. How do you lead a organization in this digital age? How do you govern it? How do you manage the performance, etc.? And the final, which I've just recently added to my thinking, is the physical space in which we work. So the workspace often gets missed out of a digital strategy, but I think it's becoming quite important, because that's where we now are seeing this work balance between remote versus physical space. But also, even if you're working physically all the time and not remotely, there are many things you can do to really embrace digital technologies to make that workplace work better. In your opinion, I mean, does this resonate well with you, or you think there should be other components thought through when we're looking at digital strategies?
Well, mashallah, you elaborated on all this digital strategy and what it should be. In our national digital strategy, yes, tackle all this, tackle the issues, most of the issues. And I am sorry, I can brief this one because I already mentioned that I have to leave because I don't have enough time to complete this one. Yes. For this, how to prioritize the data, data transformation for the countries is how to prioritize the entity, the services that provided by the entity themselves, how to be integrated the database, how to be all talk to each other, the web services, even in the back end and in the front end, in the infrastructure, and even also the way of the execution of these projects. Will it be funded from the government itself, or it will be PPP? PPP, what's I mean, that private-public partnership. So we are following that. We are following, our country is following this strategy to involve even the private sectors to be a part of this one, because we know that the private sectors and even private sector is now investing on this one, because also to let the budget of the government to be utilized in main other areas and main other projects, which is cannot be as given to the private sectors. So also Also the time frame for implementing this one. And also we have, for example, in Oman, there is a vision, it's called Oman 2040. So within that, there is also a time frame, and what it has to be, everything, all the project, all the tasks to be executed, it has to meet the Oman 2040, or to be part of Oman 2040. So if we are thinking in any area, thinking in any development, for example, human development, technology development, any other development, it had to think also to be aligned with Oman 2040 strategy. I think I could give.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dr. Salim. I really appreciate that. I know you have to leave early, and I know we're having some challenges with Dr. Jassim joining. And what I mean, if you need to, do you need to leave right now, or you have a few more minutes?
I am really sorry. If we can reorganize this in the afternoon, for example, then I will be ready. I will be much appreciated. In the afternoon there is no. We cannot break the time because due to the office meeting or office call like this one. So
no worries. Look, thank you very much, Dr. Salim. And what we'll do is we are trying to get Dr. Jassim to join us as well. We're just still having some technical challenges. Whilst we're doing this, I'm quite happy to take some questions from the audience if there's any particular questions they want to put. And in the meantime, if we don't hear any questions, I will fill the time until we get Dr. Jassim to join us by talking about a few of the things that I feel we need to be keeping in mind when we're embarking on this digital transformation journey, and especially some of the examples I've seen from around the world. So, Dr. Salim, I'll leave it to you. Please feel free to move on to your next engagement. And I want to thank you on behalf of all of the audience and myself and MEED for being with us today and giving us your time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, Brother Mohammad, to be with you for this at least couple of minutes. Inshallah, will be for the next time. Inshallah.
I just want to bring home to all of us really the significant change that has taken place. These numbers are slightly dated. I haven't updated them, but they still give us a good reflection of how our world has changed, and how pretty much our journey towards the online space or digital space has accelerated. Now, if I look at like online hours that we are spending on average, the internet users, which again, granted, is not still the whole population of the world, but it's a big portion of it. We are on average now spending 6.6 hours online, which is a significant amount of time if you think about it. If our day is generally made up of 12 to 18 hours of time when we are active doing things, and of course there is a period we all try to rest, sleep. So 6.6 is quite a big portion. I mean, you could argue it's around about 40 to 50% of our time is being spent online. And these, by the way, are figures which I picked up in 2020 last year. So they're not 2021 figures, and I'm expecting this to have risen quite significantly. If I look at how many internet users we have around the world, we have now, which I said earlier, gone to around about 4.9 billion, and that means 37% is still not connected, but the majority are. And if we look at the divide between developing countries and developed countries, then the proportion of online users or connected users is significantly higher. So the reason for why we have the 37% not connected is mainly to do with developing countries. And one astonishing figure for me was that for the first time in 2020, digital advertising eclipsed the traditional media advertising for the first time. And we are expecting, when the figures come, that would have significantly accelerated within 2020 and 2021 because of COVID. When I look at social media users, that's around 4.1 billion. users, which is a significant portion of the connected internet users. And when we look at what people are, looking to do online, significantly we are searching to buy a product or service. So 82% of internet users are looking to buy a product online. Now that's astonishing figures, because it's been a question in a lot of people's mind. How much are we moving towards the online space? How much do we use the online space versus the physical space? So these figures give us some reflection of how our world has changed. And if I go forward a bit and think about where we are heading, then the expectation by 2025 and is around about 1.2 billion 5G connections. Uh, Now, again, keep this in mind that this is been numbers predicted based pre-COVID period, and I'm expecting this would have increased significantly. Connected devices per person by 2030 is expected to be 15. So each one of us are expected to have, on average, 15 connected devices, which basically means for some of us it will be a lot higher. And if we look at the this is, by the way, per person, right? If we look at generally what we're thinking of from connected devices perspective, by 2025 we are expecting something like 41.6 billion. And when we think about interactions per connected person per day, by 2025 we're expecting that to be around about 4,900. So each one of us will be having 4,900 interactions per day. And that's obviously because there are a lot more connected devices, not that you and I are going to be using our mobile phone to do so many interactions. It's going to be the machine to machine connectivity that will make up majority of this. And when we look at then the growth going forward, the expected growth is 7.5% annually of internet users. This again, I expect to have grown when I get the latest figures. And social media users is expected to grow annually at a higher pace than the actual annual growth in internet users, so 12.3%. So that means that at some point very soon, pretty much everyone who's connected will have basically a social media presence and doing some activity in the social media space. Digital education is expected to be something like 33.2 billion by 2025 as a market, growing at something like 8.4 billion in 2020, and at a CAGR of around 31.4% growth, which is huge. The e-commerce, this is a figure I have from at least an assessment which was done when COVID hit us. So the acceleration that we are seeing in e-commerce sales is basically, they're saying is accelerated at a pace of around about 4 to 6 years. So normal pace that we would have gone at, what we would have achieved maybe in 6 years from today, we have achieved in COVID period. So e-commerce has just gone out of the roof, basically. When we look at healthcare, that market as well is by 2030 going to be something like 884.1 billion. And that is expected to accelerate as well, and probably grow at least a average CAGR of something like 21.8%. Mobile payments is another one which is going to accelerate a lot and has accelerated a lot, and same is video on demand. Going forward, we're expecting that to go quite high. So frankly, what's happened is COVID-19 as a pandemic has put a spotlight on our changed world, which it wasn't that it's happening now. Our world has actually changed. We just hadn't quite realized how much it had. And also it kind of created this tailwind, what I call, to really significantly speed up the journey for us to the next phase of basically a digital world. And in that, governments as well have played a significant role from a strategist perspective, but also in making their services be delivered online as well and through the digital mechanisms. And if I look at the e-government development index, which happens every 2 years, the UN publishes that. In 2020, they talked about something like 65% of their member states are now categorized from a maturity perspective in digital at the high or very high level, which is a significant move. About 22% of member states of the 193 have actually moved into the high category, which is significant from 2018. And if we look at transactions online versus just information being provided online, then there is something like at least one online transaction service provided by every country around the world. Of course, there are others which have done a lot more. But one reflection I've had personally, and I don't know about you guys, and if you have any points of view on this, happy to take it on board, is that whilst this move towards embracing digital technologies has benefited us a lot, and we are seeing a lot of value from it, I believe that governments, particularly, not so much on the private sector, but I've seen some examples on the private sector as well, have actually missed a trick. They have gone about creating a lot of fragmentation. So if you think about a government as being a homogeneous uh, body, they're just serving or providing, the citizens or providing services. It doesn't help us when each government agency starts to create their own digital strategies and create their own applications and own platforms to provide services through. That means now, as a citizen, I have to first learn about all of the different platforms that exist and where do I find a service X, service Y, or service Z. And also the services that are being provided from, if I think of it from my perspective as a user of services, then there's a lot of fragmentation and partial fulfillment of that. So, as an example, if we take starting a business, in most countries, starting a business means you have to go to maybe 4 or 5 or 6 different government organizations, agencies, and then private sector to actually start a business. Because from an entrepreneur's perspective, for me, starting a business is not getting a registration done very quickly or getting a approval done very quickly. Yes, that is part of it. But for me, starting a business is when I can actually open my doors and start trading. So if I'm a restaurant, I can open the doors, I can start receiving customers. Whereas when most governmental organizations look at this, they look at it, I'm doing a great job because it only takes 30 seconds for you to get a trade license or some approval, which is great. But how can we bring all of this connected together and actually now serve the citizen or the user in a way that is actually meaning for them starting a business? So starting a business becomes a service rather than a fragmented part of a service. So that's something which I feel we still need to grapple with, we need to think about. And COVID-19 has been a great a lesson giver for all of us. And I feel the biggest lesson I've learned from COVID-19 is because I travel a lot in the region, and I have now almost 7 applications on my phone for track and trace. And I feel that that's put a spotlight on a particular weakness when it comes to government or country to country collaboration. I would have loved that I just had one app and there was connectivity between different governments to share data so that I, as a user, can have a good, seamless, frictionless experience. Even when I look to board a aircraft or do my boarding, and I had this conversation with Emirates airline staff the other day, and I said it's quite strange that I live in Dubai, I have all my uh, uh, vaccines done, so I'm on the green zone, I have the PCR test. All of this is connected, and I can see it in my application. Why cannot there be a connectivity between the airline and the government organization? Because there is a requirement for me to travel, and it doesn't mean that my data needs to be shared with you. It just means the government, through the application, is giving an API to basically check that you are okay to travel because you have fulfilled all the COVID-19 requirements. And the same thing between government to government, really. And it's astonishing how even in Europe, and I was talking to some senior people in Estonia and in Denmark the other day, how even in Europe there's so much fragmentation, whilst it's supposed to be open borders, and every country is addressing COVID-19 in their own individualistic way. So there's a lot of interesting lessons we've learned, and that's for me the biggest one. The other one is that we still, by going down the digital route, could be, or digital only route, could be contributing towards the digital divide. And there is already a digital divide. We need to keep that in mind. And I find that a lot of governments haven't quite understood their population construct and built their digital strategies based on the understanding of their customer base. No business will or should create a strategy to serve citizens who don't have connectivity without having connectivity as a problem to solve for within the strategy. And I found very few government strategies that, or national strategies, I say, which is looking at the connectivity challenge, and not just connectivity, the digital literacy challenge that we have. Because even countries like Singapore, which are considered to be one of the leading digital nations in the world, and Estonia, they have programs to really build digital literacy in their populations. So they have recognized that despite them being so advanced, they have to invest in building the capability of their people at a national level, not from a technology perspective, coding perspective, but how to operate in the digital world. What does it mean to be online? What does it mean to open a bank account and operate a bank account or buy services online? So all of these things are quite important, but sometimes get missed. And the point I'm trying to make here is that because the world has changed so much around us, I think there's a need for us to really rethink, or what I call reimagine, rather than just go down the route of transformation. And this requires us to ask some fundamental questions like, why do we do what we do today? And are these things even needed or redundant? What's the point of digitizing a process or a service if really it's not needed anymore and we invest so much money? If still needed, is it us who should be doing it? Or should we look at more of an ecosystem-based model? Whether I'm a government or a private sector, should I look at embracing startups? Should I look at embracing academia and others to help with delivery of things? And most important thing is, this question of what actually are we not doing today that we should be doing? And let me bring this, maybe reflect on this very quickly before we close, from a point of view of an example. Take passport. I often use this as an example. Passport, in a traditional digital transformation mindset, we would say, how do we make the access to passport, to apply for it seamless, easier, what have you, and even move to a model where it becomes proactive or predictive, that I know that you have turned certain age as a government, so I can reach out to you and say, would you like, become entitled to a passport? Would you like me to kick off the process of your passport? And if you say yes, then these are the steps you need to go through. And I have your data, so you don't need to give me your data again, but I need you to come in or do these kind of verifications. So make the process a lot easier. Or your passport is expiring and I can reach out to you and say, look, passport is expiring. Would you like me to kick off the process of your new passport? And these things can happen. And then comes the bit, which is the kind of processing of the passport, how you make it, use technology to process the application and then you deliver. But there's another way of looking at this, which I call the reimagining. And I ask the question, what purpose does passport fulfill? And I come to the conclusion it is there to enable travel. So then I can ask the second question, if it's there to enable travel, how can I enable travel today in the digital world? And we reach the conclusion that passports particularly are not required anymore. And maybe we can argue they have passed their sell-by date. So now the question or the problem we're looking to solve for is something different. So facial recognition, biometrics is enabling this to happen. You don't necessarily need a document to be carried with you for you to now travel. So now it becomes more of a country-to-country collaboration problem rather than a physical document problem, and that becomes obsolete. And when we take the reimagining route, we really do get to the core of what we are trying to do and how we can leverage the technology that we have at our disposal today. So I'll conclude with that, saying that digital is not just about technology, it's more about the business model, more about the operating model before we start to go into thinking about the technology itself. I want to, unfortunately, we couldn't have Dr. Jassim join us, and we have come to the, I think, conclusion of our time today. I feel that we've missed out on maybe a great chat with Dr. Jassim, but hopefully on another occasion we'll be able to pick that up. If there's no questions, I don't see any questions at the moment from the floor, then maybe we should look to wrap up. And I will wrap up with just sharing one point of view that we should think about putting in anything we do in our digital strategy, we should think about putting our customers, our citizens at the center of our thinking, number one, or that should be our focus because that's why we exist. And then number two is to really, at the core, have data analytics, build our future operating model and organizational models around data analytics, because that's going to play the biggest role. And make your model more ecosystem centric. Yes, have an emphasis on digital by default and digital first, but not only, because there's many who are not there today connected, but help them to get connected. And finally, make your session outcomes or results, not outputs. Outputs can or cannot sometimes be beneficial, but outcomes are always, because they touch on the benefits itself. With that, I'll wish you all a great day ahead. And thank you very much for joining. Thank you, MEED, for giving us this opportunity to have this chat. Thank you very much. Have a good day.